Hey everyone, welcome to another video of Code Frenzy. In the last video, we discussed about the hide, show and toggle jQuery effects, like how showing and hiding of content is much easier with the magic of jQuery. In today's video, we'll be discussing about another jQuery effect, which is fading. With the help of jQuery, you can fade an element in and out of visibility with the use of methods such as fade in, fade out, fade toggle, and fade to. We'll discuss about each of them individually with the help of examples. So without any further delay, let's jump on to the very first method, which is fade in. We have our example here. As you can see from the code, we have 3 div tags, 1 button, and when you run it, you can see these 3 div tags, the button and the heading here. On click, it does nothing because we have to write a script for this, which will help us fade in the boxes. So the fade in method is used to bring out the elements which are already hidden. We can see these div tags, so first of all we'll make them hidden by doing the display as none. Talking about the fade in method, the syntax goes as you can see in the line number 10 as the selector dot fade in, and it has 2 parameters, speed and callback. These parameters are optional, and for the speed parameter, it will specify the duration of the effect. It can take values such as slow, fast, or time in milliseconds. There's another optional parameter, which is callback. The callback parameter is a function to be executed after the fading has completed. So, coming back to this example, so what we have to do now is on the click of the button, you have to fade in the div tags which are already hidden. So what we'll do here, as the syntax says, $, the ID of the div tags, div1 dot fade in, and we are going to do the same for the rest of the 2. Just copy paste div2 and div3. So here we can see the difference between the transition speeds. If we do not give anything, it will like be fade in without any parameter, and for fade in we can give it as slow or fast, and also we can give time in milliseconds. And save it. Now we run this. Yeah. Now if you click on this button, it will slowly, or depending upon the speed which you have given, will bring out the hidden elements, which are the div tags. So you can notice the speed or the effect of duration in each of the div tag as we have specified. So this was the example for fade in. Now we are going to discuss about the fade out method. Unlike the fade in method, the jQuery fade out method is used to fade out a visible element. The syntax and all are in the similar fashion as that of fade in. So we'll jump into the example for fade out. We are going to consider the same example we did for the fade in method. We have 3 div tags and a button, and on clicking on that button I should be able to fade out the div tags out of visibility, and we are going to make changes in the previous code itself. Minor changes only. Instead of fade in, it'll be like fade out. The fade out method also has two parameters, speed and callback. For speed, you can give the same things such as slow, fast, or the time in milliseconds. And callback function is optional here as well. So just change the fade in to fade out. Save this thing. And for fade out, obviously the things you are supposed to fade out should already be like visible. So display block here. Save and run. So we have these three div tags, and on clicking on the fade out boxes button, I should be able to fade out these boxes. So here you go, and the duration of the effect is based upon the speed parameter that you have mentioned here. So this was the example for fade out. So now we're going to discuss about the fade toggle, which is like a combination of fade in and fade out, but instead of using two buttons, we can just use one, that is fade toggle. The jQuery fade toggle method toggles between the fade in and fade out methods. If the elements are faded out, fade toggle will make them fade in, and if the elements are faded in, the fade toggle method will fade them out. So it has a similar syntax as that of fade in and fade out, and we'll jump into the example now. We are going to consider the same example for the fade toggle method as well. So these three div tags in the button. So here we have fade toggle. The fade toggle also has two parameters which are optional, which is speed and callback. Same values for speed, like slow, fast, or time in milliseconds, and the callback parameter, which is like optional, which is supposed to be the function which is executed when the fade toggle has happened. So we'll directly jump on to the result here. So as you can see, we have only one button here, which we are going to use for the fade in and fade out as well. So when you click on this, these will all fade out, and on clicking back on this button, all the div tags will fade in. So as I told earlier, what the fade toggle method does is, like, if the elements are faded out, the fade toggle will fade them in, and if the elements are faded in, the fade toggle will fade them out. So now let's move on to the next example, which is for the fade to. Now we will discuss about the fade to method. The jQuery fade to method allows fading to a given opacity, which means you can make that element like semi-transparent, or like you can give any value between 0 and 1 for the opacity. The required parameter here for the fade to is like the opacity, which is a value between 0 and 1. As the name suggests, fade to method, it will fade the element to the given opacity which the user enters. So let's get on to the example, and for this also we will consider the same example as we did for the previous ones. Unlike the fade methods we have discussed earlier, the fade to method has different syntax. As you can see in line number 10, the fade to method has three parameters: speed, opacity, and callback. In the earlier examples, the parameters were optional, and for this one, speed and opacity is required and the callback is optional. The required opacity parameter, it specifies the fading to a given opacity, and this value can be anything between 0 and 1. The speed parameter specifies the duration of the effect. It can take the values such as slow, fast, or time in milliseconds. And the optional callback parameter is a function to be executed after the function completes. So we'll see here we have 3 div tags and we have to fade all of them to a given opacity. We have already entered the required parameter, which is the speed, and now we'll enter the opacity, which is also a required parameter, and it can take any value between 0 and 1 depending upon how you want it. So we'll just give random numbers here between 0 and 1, like 0.4 for the first div and 0.7 for the second and 0.9 for the third one, so that you can make out the difference between all those 3 div tags. We have saved it and now we'll run this. So now I'm clicking on the button. I should be able to fade these div tags according to the opacity which I have mentioned in the code. So when we click on this button, you can see this has faded out the div tags depending upon the 0.4 for the first one, 0.7 for the second one, and 0.9 for the third div. So this was all about the fade in, fade out, fade toggle, and fade to methods, which are the fading methods for the jQuery effects.